Will you please remain standing and join with me for the invocation? Source of beauty and being, light to our minds and hearts, you have been our dwelling place in all generations. In your hand are the deep places of the earth, and the strength of the hills is yours also. You have brought us from every corner of the earth to this place of learning and this time of new beginnings. With wonder and gratitude, we look to the years behind us, the homes and heritage, the people and pathways that have formed us. What we have been given, we offer to each other. Our voices and accents, our vision and energy, our passions and our wisdom. We remember with thanks the labor and dreams of those who went before us, who gave this school their years and their labor, creating a special place where friendship blooms across the generations. Revive and refresh us, strengthen and renew us for this good work. To you we give thanks for this lifelong journey of our seeking minds, for the dim gropings of our spirits and the unfathomed aspirations of our deepest selves. In a world of change, you placed eternity in our hearts. God of wisdom, save us from easy contentment with small thoughts whose cost is little and whose rewards are slight. Stir within us an inward passion for the challenging and mighty thoughts that, though costing all, enlarge and enrich our souls. Grant that we may persistently seek the things that endure, and that amid things vanishing and deceptive, we may see the truth steadily, follow the light faithfully, and grow ever richer in that love which is the life of all people. Amen. You may be seated.
Oh boy. You better talk fast. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, and welcome to the 213th Convocation of Middlebury College. One of Middlebury's most important symbols is Gamaliel Painter's cane, which Painter left to the college in 1819. As a way to mark your entry into our college community, I would like to put into circulation Painter's original cane and ask you to pass among yourselves during our convocation ceremony. When the last student receives Painter's cane, will he or she bring the cane back up front so future generations of students can share in this tradition.
Good afternoon. It is my pleasure to welcome you, the members of the class of 2016, to Middlebury College on behalf of the faculty. We are delighted to have you here, and we are anxious to get down to the work of the academic year. During your 4 years here, you will be able to benefit from the talent and dedication of remarkable teachers, scholars, and artists, and you will be able to choose from a vast array of fascinating and challenging courses. You should not take this opportunity for granted. It is a privilege, and you can make the most of it by following your intellectual and creative passions, stepping outside your academic comfort zones, and discovering new passions. We believe our job at Middlebury is to create lifelong learners, and we hope you will embrace this process of intellectual discovery or self-discovery as a vital part of your education here. Now, perhaps you've read the college's mission statement and know that students who come to Middlebury learn to engage the world. Here, our aspirations speak as much to how you approach your education as what you learn while you are here. We encourage you to be open to the worlds you discover on this campus and beyond, and we hope you will take advantage of the intellectual opportunities that the college provides in and outside of the classroom. Likewise, the internet offers access to resources that were unimaginable a generation ago, transforming how we learn. But with these possibilities come challenges, not only in how we evaluate online sources and sift information, but also in the amount of time we spend engaging the world through virtual means. I raised this last issue not to suggest that we should unplug our computers or turn off our iPhones, never mind Facebook, but to underscore the importance of mindfulness, of paying attention to how we spend our time. Because of all the resources you have at Middlebury, your time here is the most precious. Starting tomorrow, we, the faculty, will be your partners in your effort to seek an education that prepares you to engage the world. We will encourage, support, and cheer your efforts to find and develop your intellectual passions. We may even offer advice on how you can balance the various interests in your life. So seize the day and welcome to Middlebury. It is now my pleasure to welcome to the lectern our Commons heads, who will say a few words about the history and traditions of the 5 Commons at Middlebury College.
Will the students of Atwater Commons please rise?
Mr. President, we are pleased to present to you the members of the class of 2016 from Atwater Commons. Jeremiah Atwater was the first president of Middlebury College. A native of New Haven and a graduate of Yale, he came to Middlebury in 1799 as principal of the Addison County Grammar School. He began teaching Middlebury College's first 7 students on November 5, 1800, just 5 days after the governor had signed the college's charter.
While each Commons namesake was a unique figure in the college's history, and while each Commons has built its own traditions, we are united in our mission to foster a stimulating intellectual environment both in and outside the classroom. Drawing strength from the inherent closeness of a residential college, the Commons encourages collaborations between faculty, staff, and students that enrich the lives of all members of this community.
At the heart of this endeavor is the cultivation of authentic relationships with our students, and between students and other faculty and staff. Authentic relationships are marked by uninhibited sharing of views, a respect for differences, a willingness to listen, and openness to considering alternative perspectives. Despite the small number, those first 7 Middlebury students from back in the early 1800s reflected a wide range of intellectual interests as they went on to become lawyers, teachers, ministers, and legislators. In a similar way, as the class of 2016 begins its 4 years at Middlebury, the Commons have already begun laying the foundation for a dynamic community built upon healthy relationships and accepting of different viewpoints. Completion of a challenging common reading united this incoming class, while small discussions led by staff and faculty provided early exposure to the types of conversations the Commons encourages. First-year seminars, each operating under the umbrella of a given Commons, are already off and running, tackling a diverse array of topics ranging from Muslim politics in the West to physics for educated citizens. Soon, these groups will be meeting in Commons houses, where students, faculty, and visiting guests will exchange ideas and continue to learn from one another.
We trust that all of you in the class of 2016 will come to value the relationships developed within your individual Commons. And while it may be natural for you to have the strongest connections within your Commons, we challenge you to not only look for relationships in the obvious, easy, or comfortable places, but to explore connections with all of your classmates, the broader college, and with members of the local community. In doing so, we are confident that you will benefit, be stretched, and will grow from the breadth and diversity of ideas and viewpoints that this very special place has to offer. Thank you, and welcome to Middlebury.
Would the students of Brainerd Commons please rise? Mr. President, it is my honor to present to you the members of the class of 2016 from Brainerd Commons. Now guys, let me relate a couple of facts about Ezra Brainerd, after whom this commons is named, but this time without the owl. Ezra Brainerd, my students know what this refers to. Ezra Brainerd graduated from the public schools of Vermont and entered Middlebury College in 1860. Like all of you, he would have attended Convocation, one of the college's oldest rituals, not in this chapel, but in Old Chapel down the path you just walked up on. Until his death in 1924, his life was linked to the life of the college. First as student, then as tutor, then professor, then president of the college, and finally as one of its trustees. Appointed president in 1885, he served in that position for 22 years. But chronology only hints at his career. Ezra Brainerd had a reputation for being a very smart student. His classmates called him Mr. Brains. During his first 12 years on the faculty, he was professor of rhetoric and English literature. Then he moved from the humanities to the sciences, teaching physics and applied mathematics. As a researcher, he was known for his discoveries in two areas: the geology of the Champlain Valley and, above all, for the botanical research that he carried out while president. He raised, observed, and recorded over 3,500 varieties of plants. Fascinated by the hybrid violets he found occurring in nature, he sought to replicate these hybrids in his backyard laboratory, cultivating over 100 varieties. He reported his research in a study published just days before his death, simply calling it "Some Natural Violet Hybrids in North America." But in fact, a Harvard botanist praised his study as the most important American contribution to date on the laws of hybridism in plants. You can actually still see President Brainerd's violets. They blossom every spring in the woods behind what was his house on the base of Chipman Hill. But there is other physical testimony to the legacy of Ezra Brainerd on this campus. The old Star Library, now the Axon Center, and Warner Hall were built during his presidency. But more than that, his legacy is present as the example of a life animated by curiosity about literature, language, geology, botany, and evolution. A life in which he carried the classical studies of his youth into a career of learning that spanned the humanities and the natural sciences, a career that he may never have envisioned when he, like you, arrived at Middlebury College. Although he was anchored geographically to one place, his mind led him far beyond the borders of that place. I hope that we can attain a similar level of lifelong learning that is based on continuous reflection and leads to accepting responsibility for our actions. These actions affect everyone around us and have the potential of creating a better tomorrow. Welcome to Middlebury College.
Will the students of Cook Commons please rise? Mr. President, I am pleased to present to you the members of the class of 2016 from Cook Commons. Cook Commons is named after Reginald L. Cook, Middlebury class of 1924, one of the college's most distinguished faculty members of the 20th century. Attending Oxford as a Rhodes Scholar, he then returned to his alma mater to join the newly established Department of American Literature. From 1929 through 1969, Doc Cook was known for his finely crafted lectures and exacting standards. As director of the Breadloaf School of English for 2 decades, he raised Middlebury's programs in literature to a peak they continue to occupy today. In Cook Commons, we have embedded Doc Cook's intellectual and humanistic example within our motto of 12 years standing, pleasure and intelligence. Chosen by Cook students, This motto underscores the development of the whole person through the Middlebury experience. What are our pleasures here at Middlebury College? We, of course, find the exuberant fun of social life, extracurricular activities, adventurous explorations, and sports. Yet in this environment, we also find the more subtle and intense pleasures of the mind, of study, discussion, writing, experimentation, performance, work, and community service. As we live the life of the mind together, we also experience the pleasures of the heart, of truth, friendship, and respectful community. In Cook Commons, we ask ourselves how our actions influence the lives of the others who live around us. Through countless meaningful and memorable conversations in class and out, our mentors and our peers touch, challenge, and transform us, awakening us to respect, nurture, and love ourselves, our talents, and our very lives. In this way, we wisely take responsibility not only for ourselves, but for each other. True intelligence takes root in the existential pursuit of the lasting pleasure found in the responsible integration of the mind and the heart. We find this integration in friendship and through the larger building of life-sustaining, respectful communities rooted in both wisdom and intellect. Cook Commons will work with the class of 2016 to experience pleasure and intelligence and to form the vital habit of joining mind to heart, both here and throughout your lives beyond these walls. Thank you.
Will the students of Ross Commons please rise? Mr. President, we are pleased to present to you the members of the class of 2016 from Ross Commons. Eleanor Ross, Middlebury class of 1895, was appointed Dean of Women in 1915. From 1915 through 1943, Dean Ross directed what was for much of that time a coordinated women's college at Middlebury. Known for her intellectual stature and high standards, Eleanor Ross helped make Middlebury into an institution that prepared women for leadership roles at a time when many other residential liberal arts colleges in the Northeast continued to be all-male institutions.
Following that example, we believe academic excellence is no exclusive privilege. It spreads across boundaries of gender, class, race, and ethnicity. In our own distinct ways, all of us here are bound by a common goal as we aspire to the ideal that is symbolically captured in the seal of our college. The seal's outer frame, Middlebury College of Vermont, encircles the Latin phrase scientia et virtus. Scientia, from the verb scio, to know, and virtus, extending from its original narrow meaning, manliness, to encompass all sorts of virtue, are linked in an unbreakable pair of powerful resonance. Scientia is not worth acquiring without virtus, as knowledge has ethical implications. Yet, the sequence of the two concepts suggests that while virtus accompanies scientia and complements it, knowledge is still primary. What we seek is not virtue with knowledge, but knowledge with virtue.
The primacy of knowledge is expressed in the seal's inner circle, the open book with the emanating rays of light. Its letters are not legible. They wait to be deciphered. To be sure, the book is not the only source of learning. Anything can be a discovery if you have a curious, a philosophic mind. Yet, this book is the symbol and model of knowledge, as the symbol and model of knowledge is the bond that brings all of us together in a community of learning. We are all learners, striving to cultivate the various fields of knowledge and enjoy their fruits, but also to understand each other in a community that finds its embodiment in the commons. We think of the commons as the laboratory of the liberal arts, where integrity of intellect and soul is combined with respect for each other's unique path to what is true and good. Welcome to Middlebury College.
Will the students of Wanacott Commons please rise? Mr. President, I am pleased to present to you the members of the class of 2016 from Wanacott Commons. Wanacott Commons is named in honor of Erica Wanacott, Middlebury's last Dean of Women in 1968 to 69, and the first Dean of Students from 1969 through 1988. During her time as Dean of Students, Middlebury College became a truly coeducational institution. The Student Activities Board, the student-run newspaper, and the radio stations supported by student activities fees all became established parts of student life at Middlebury during her time. The numerous opportunities for students' extracurricular self-expression are Erica Wanacott's legacy. My colleagues have spoken eloquently about the many opportunities for intellectual and personal development here at Middlebury. So I will simply add the suggestion to connect to where we began, that you consider developing and cultivating the habit of private contemplation amidst the busy life at Middlebury, whether in the form of a sitting practice such as meditation, or a movement practice such as yoga, or mindful walking. Consider finding the space for stillness in this era when we often equate being busy with being useful or good or living the good life. I invite all of you to develop a practice that is not goal-oriented, but rather focused on developing and fostering quiet reflection and contemplation. Welcome to Middlebury. May we all seek to live a mindful life at this marvelous college. Thank you.
Is the cane still moving around? Just checking. Where's the cane? Okay, got to keep an eye on that. It's quite old. Alexander Twilight Artist in Residence, Francois Clemens, will now sing one verse of Gaudiamus Igitur, and then we'll all join in singing the 4 verses printed in the program. Would everybody please rise?
Gaudiamus igitur, juvenes dum sumus. Gaudiamus igitur, juvenes dum sumus. Post jucandam juventutem, post molestam venectutem, nos habebimus, nos habebimus. Gaudiamus igitur, juvenes dum sumus. Gaudiamus igitur, juvenes dum sumus. Post jucundam juventutem, post molestam senectutem, nos habebimus, nos habebimus. Vivat Academia, vivat professores, vivat Academia, vivat professores, vivat membrum quod liber, vivant membra qua libet, sempre sit in flore, sempre sit in flore. Viva de res nubica, Equiniam regit, vivat et res publica, Equiniam regit, viva nostra civitas, Naesedatum caritas, Venos hic protegit, Venos hic protegit. Alma mater Gloria, Venus educavit. Alma mater Gloria, Venus educavit. Arus et commilitones, dissestas in regionis, sparsos congregavit, sparsos
Yeah, man. Please be seated. It is now my pleasure to recognize members of the senior class who were elected to Phi Beta Kappa as juniors. I'll be announcing those names for those who are able to join us today. As I call your names, please rise and let's hold our applause till the end. Dana Callahan, Alec Cooper, Cameron Curtin, Grace Golke, William Jory, Joshua Evan Horenstein Johnson, Kimberly Neeland, Jillian Louis, Jordi Resigliano, and Andrew Volmer. Congratulations to all of you. Thank you, Francois. It's my pleasure, on behalf of the faculty, staff, trustees, and your fellow Middlebury students, to extend a warm welcome to you, the class of 2016. I hope you enjoyed orientation, which I know is the product of a lot of work on the part of so many. Even with last night's dramatic storm, your introduction to Vermont has been rather serene compared to last year's entering class, which arrived along with the remnants of Hurricane Irene. That storm, though it thankfully spared this particular community, caused massive flooding that destroyed roads, bridges, and unfortunately many homes in large swaths of the state. The country saw how Vermonters rose to the occasion, rolled up their sleeves, and tackled the difficult situation they faced without pointing fingers or feeling sorry for themselves. Many in the state also saw the character of Middlebury College students too, as early returning students volunteered here in town and in neighboring communities, some as far away as the New Hampshire border. They made a huge difference in the lives of many they didn't even know. This kind of caring and acting, as I tell many, is a hallmark of our campus culture, and I hope that you, all of you, in the class of 2016, will strengthen that culture, not only in times of crisis, but in your everyday doings at this college. The harsh and variable weather so often mentioned in stories about Vermont, and something you will see far more clearly come wintertime, is one of the things that defines this college and creates the kind of environment in which friendships and personal relationships are more important, more meaningful, and more long-lasting than in most other settings. There are few distractions in this beautiful, relatively remote part of New England, which means students here rely heavily on one another for their social, intellectual, creative, and academic sustenance and energy. And though one of the great and sometimes unnoticed benefits of being at a place like Middlebury is the opportunity for students to get involved and make a difference in the town, in Addison County, and even in Montpelier, our state capital, living and learning at this institution revolves around being part of this intellectual community. It is a community filled with remarkably talented students, dedicated staff, and the very best faculty you can find, so long as you're ready and willing to be challenged and to take advantage of their talents and high expectations. But I'll come back to this topic after I provide background to the cane that should be circulating among you still, and to this college, now your college. And by the way, don't be afraid to get up and move the cane upstairs. In previous years, sometimes folks sitting in the balcony did not get to see the cane. Gamaliel Painter was one of the visionaries who helped to found Middlebury College more than 200 years ago. He could barely read and write, yet he was wise to the world, had a knack for assessing risk, and the remarkable ability to master whatever kind of work he pursued or needed to get done, a self-starter in the true sense of the word. He was a successful businessman, skilled negotiator, bold entrepreneur, and a farmer, and was always looking to improve his, and later in life, this town's lot. Germane to us here and to our college, Painter purchased land on speculation just east of the Otter Creek during a chance trip to the region, and then years later, when things got stale in his native Salisbury, Connecticut, he moved his family to Middlebury, largely at the nudging of his wife, to take his chance on a new life. When Painter moved his family to Middlebury, the population numbered fewer than the number of first years living in Battelle today. Painter, largely uneducated, saw the need for his two sons, along with the children of other townspeople, to obtain a better education than what he, Painter, had received while growing up in Connecticut. He began efforts to establish a grammar school, or what he called a Central Academy, to provide such an education. After several years, in 1797, with the help of Seth Storrs and several prominent Middlebury families, Painter secured land on the west side of the Otter Creek and then won a charter to begin a grammar school. A year later, in the fall of 1798, Timothy Dwight, then president of Yale, and at the time New England's most esteemed educator, visited Middlebury. The Yale president was in Vermont to complete some research on the economic geography of the region, but also to enjoy Vermont's wondrous natural environment while convalescing from a recent illness. The trustees of the new grammar school, and Painter in particular, believed strongly that if the fledgling town of Middlebury was to become prosperous and the greater Champlain Valley was to become a viable economic, cultural, and political region, both would need a college or a university. Gaining the approval and support of someone of Timothy Dwight's stature would make Painter's goal all the more possible, and in fact would prove necessary for it to happen. In what college historian David Stemeshkin and Painter biographer Storrs Lee describe as Vermont's version of a Potemkin village affair, Painter and the grammar school trustees wined and dined Timothy Dwight during his visit to Middlebury. They asked a local innkeeper to host what was described as the best prepared meal anyone had ever witnessed in this town. The host garnished the meal and the guests with the finest liqueurs one could find in town, and by the end of the dinner, Painter and his collaborators secured Dwight's support for a charter for what would become this college. But that was only part one of the larger project for Painter. Soon after the noteworthy Dwight dinner, Painter, with a letter of support from Dwight in hand, began his work with the Vermont legislature to gain permission to establish his college in Middlebury. His petition failed to make the state's assembly's agenda in two successive legislative sessions, in 1798 and 1799 gatherings, but though irritated and impatient, Painter persevered. As a way to sway the legislators to take up his cause, he offered the town of Middlebury, with its spanking new courthouse, to play host to the state's legislative session in 1800, and his offer was accepted. In those days, the state capital was not located in Montpelier, as it is today. In fact, it was not located in any one place, but rather alternated each year between a town on the eastern side of the Green Mountains one year and one on the western side the next. That is how Painter got the legislature conduct its business in Middlebury in 1800. The 1798 and 1799 sessions might have ignored Painter's petition for a charter, but the third try was a charm. During the three-week legislative session in 1800, Middlebury citizens, merchants, and tavern owners gave the visiting legislatures the red carpet treatment, hoping to help Painter and his associates attain the much sought-after charter. Despite the significant and even hostile protests from the 20 representatives from Burlington and Chittenden County, where a university charter was awarded 9 years earlier, the Assembly approved Painter's petition and officially granted a charter for what would become Middlebury College on November 1st, 1800. The opposition from Burlington was probably due to a large dose of embarrassment. Even though their town received the state's first charter for a university in 1791, the university had yet to hire a faculty member or teach a single student more than 9 years later. Painter and his colleagues, all New England Puritans and most of them educated at Yale, donated $4,150 to construct the first college building. Classes began in the newly constructed building, which sat on the site of present-day Twilight Hall. For 19 years after the college's founding, Painter walked the streets of the town and carried with him the famous cane that is circulating among you now. At his death in 1819, Painter left a bequest of more than $13,000 to the college, a huge sum of money at the time, and it served to secure the college's future. I provide this background so you can appreciate Painter's remarkable vision and determination and become acquainted with one of the college's most important founders. His cane, a replica of which each of you will receive at commencement, has become the college's most important symbol and has come to represent many of the things we aspire to inculcate in our students, in all of you. The spirit of Gamaliel Painter lives on in the rich history of this college. You, the newest members of its extended family, are now a part of this long and great history, and your college welcomes you today with open arms, an open heart, and some very high aspirations. Those aspirations are rooted in what we already know about you, what you accomplished before you arrived. You're a diverse collection of bright, inquisitive, energetic, and eager learners and doers. As you bring your talents and experiences to this community, I challenge you to take advantage of the committed and talented faculty you now have as mentors and teachers, our dedicated staff, and students from the other three classes with whom you will form bonds of friendship that will endure well beyond your time here. Your fellow students, in particular, should be a remarkable source of inspiration to you. I encourage you to seek out as broad a swath of friends as you can. We strive, as an institution, to build a student body that is diverse in its background and life experiences for a reason, and that is to enrich your learning environment both inside and outside the classroom. I know you will take advantage of many of the academic opportunities before you, but I also know you are likely to feel some frustration when you can't do as many of the things you want to. But not doing it all is sometimes a good thing. Doing things in balance will be a challenge because so many of you have been doing so many things for a good part of your lives. It is hard to slow down and recognize the time and place to stop and delve deeper and more seriously into something that inspires you and is likely to become an important part of your future. In order to help you get the most of your time here, I pass along the following advice. No matter how much you wish to extend it, the day is 24 hours long. The workload per course at Middlebury is demanding, and so when you think about how you allocate your time, make sure to leave enough time to cover all you'll be asked to do in 4, not 1, 2, or 3 classes. View your time here as a way to study both deeply and broadly. That is the advantage and indeed the purpose of coming to a liberal arts college. Unlike what you would do at a technical or pre-professional school, we require you to select a major, but also to take courses across the curriculum, selecting classes and disciplines you might have never taken before or even knew existed. Those courses have not only different content, but many will introduce you to different ways of knowing and thinking. Becoming familiar with various ways of pursuing, absorbing, and creating knowledge is part of the richness of your liberal arts education and one that will forever foster the desire to continuing learning throughout your lives. Resist the myth that more is better. For example, that 2 majors are necessarily better than 1, and instead take advantage of the strength of our faculty and curriculum by taking multiple courses in the arts, humanities, languages, social sciences, and natural sciences. You will graduate 4 years from now better educated and just as prepared to go on for a PhD in any discipline or to pursue any career you wish, as you would have been had you completed a double major. More importantly, by taking courses broadly across the curriculum, chances are you will meet a faculty member who will excite you by material you would have otherwise never encountered and perhaps change your life. Science majors might find a deep reading of Homer's The Odyssey or John Stuart Mill's On Liberty or doing landscape painting, each for the first time, central to the rest of their lives. Just as literature majors might discover a passion and lifelong interest in ecology, molecular biology, or non-proliferation studies after taking a course in these areas despite never having had the opportunity to do so before. As you think about the next 4 years, try to think about striking a balance in what you study, in what you do outside your academic work, and in what you do to create a satisfying social life. Contrary to how it might seem from afar, the transition to college is never seamless for anybody. Finding a significant connection to something here and finding it early, an athletics team, an improv group, a literary club, artists and entrepreneurs at the Old Stone Mill, or to any of the college's 150-plus student organizations will provide the kind of social entree that will make the transition here easier and richer. This takes initiative, but we make it relatively easy for you. I suggest all of you attend the college's activities fair, where you can meet members of many student organizations and learn about what each does and how to get involved from the start. This year's fair will take place Friday, September 14th at 4:30 p.m., right behind us here on Hepburn Road. At the reception for parents this past week, I was asked a question I've been asked just about every year since I became president in 2004. I was asked what my hopes were for this incoming class. I said, as I have said before, that I hope members of this class, and really of all of our students, would take advantage of the wealth of resources and opportunities here before they graduate. I explained that our faculty, in addition to offering an exceptional experience in the classroom, are poised to mentor our students and help them connect with a remarkable array of people and programs to help them delve deeply into their interests, become better educated in the broad sense of the word, and develop the kind of character that is most likely to come from learning broadly and living responsibly in a community like ours. My hopes then revolve not around any particular measured outcomes per se, but rather around how much of what we offer you, you will engage and let engage you. If you explore all that there is here, connect meaningfully with as broad array of courses and people as possible, and pursue your passions with great vigor, I'm confident you will become not only accomplished in your chosen field of study, but you will also develop into the inquisitive, lifelong learner that a liberal arts college strives to develop and proudly produces. Graduates who are confident and fully prepared to meet the economic, social, and ethical challenges of this increasingly complex world. But so much of this is up to you and will depend on how willing you are to take the initiative. From the little I told you today about Gamaliel Painter, you should be able to deduce how Painter would approach a Middlebury education if he had the chance to begin his studies with you today. As the symbolic cane makes its way around the chapel, may Painter's legacy be felt by each and every one of you over the next 4 years, and may you challenge yourself to make the most of your time at this remarkable college, just as you know Painter would have done. Thank you, and best of luck, class of 2016.
In 5 weeks, very early on in your Middlebury careers, we'll again be sitting together, listening to the teachings of Tenzin Gyatso, better known as His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. His theme will be cultivating hope, wisdom, and compassion. His theme is my hope for you as you begin your studies at Middlebury. The Hebrew term for hope is tikvah. Hope has within it an expectation that there will be a positive outcome to one's actions. It gives life to the present. It motivates us to fulfill a vision for the future. Wisdom is chokhmah. In traditional Jewish thought, wisdom is understanding justice and responding appropriately to life's challenges. It has both an ethical and a spiritual quality to it. The last of the triad is compassion, rachamim. It comes from a root meaning womb and can be understood as a mother's love for her child or the special feelings between siblings sharing the same familial love. It is my prayer that hope, wisdom, and compassion will inform both your studies and your interactions with each other. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May you find blessing and protection in the wellspring of knowledge and grace in the source of understanding. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May the foundation of wisdom bestow favor upon you and grant you peace. Amen. If you are able, please remain standing while Francois Clemens sings the Alma Mater once, after which we'll join together.
Walls of ivy, paths of beauty, we have known and loved them well. Spirit chapel rising proudly, morning hymn and evening bell. Middlebury alma mater, symbol of his strength and truth, symbol of his strength and truth. Walls of ivy, paths of beauty, we have known and loved them well. Spirit chapel rising proudly, morning